All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Hideout, episode 79, in fact, of our weekly Twitter Spaces covering Web3 gaming and the Metaverse with some awesome guests. And this Spaces is going to be special. We have some guests that are old friends, and we have some guests that are new friends. So definitely excited to jump in. Got a lot of interesting stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks and some exciting alpha and announcements that we want to share with everybody. So this is going to be a great spaces. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera, and unfortunately I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I'm going to power through this one. I am the CEO and co-founder of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and the Legion's 2029 game, which we have been developing for the last 2.5 years, and the Satoshiverse for about the last 4 years. Crazy to think how long it's been. I have been in the Web3 space since 2017, when, interestingly enough, I bought my first token, which was Mana, and we are lucky to be joined by Decentraland here. It is the reason that I joined the space, so very excited to have the oldest of my friends, here on this space, and we've got some exciting stuff coming up with Decentraland, so we'll jump into that, and then we have some other great guests that we are still trying to get a couple on stage, so bear with us while we do that. But just as a quick overview, we'll do some introductions for the projects. I'll give you guys the floor to mention, what you're building, anything you might have coming up, and then we will jump into some questions more generally about the Web3 gaming and Metaverse space. On our side, quick introduction to Satoshiverse. It began in 2020 as a comic art collaboration with the late, great comic book artist, DC and Marvel veteran Jose Delbo, who contributed his impression on the space by creating Satoshi the Creator, the superhero adaptation of our beloved Satoshi, that then evolved into a whole gaming and comic IP universe that we are building now with Satoshiverse. The game, I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds on it because you have a really good reference above that I've pinned the spaces. But high level, the game is a fast-paced hack and slash game. It is free to play and currently open for community testing. So all you have to do is jump in and test it, and you will get a chance to be part of this early developmental phase of the game. We are actively in the Discord building with our community, so a really fun time to be part of this. All the instructions and the prizes, we have tons of stuff. You want to be one of those people who gets early items, participates in speedrun contests with USD rewards, whole bunch of cool stuff going on right now. Check out the post. It's got all the information. But yeah, that is where I'll leave it on us. I would just say if you have questions, join the Discord. We're happy to talk more, but I want to focus on our guests. So without further ado, let's jump over to our friends at Decentraland. How are you guys doing?
Hi, everyone. Kim here behind the Decentraland account today. I am the head of partnerships and marketing over at Decentraland, and we're excited to be here. So thank you for having us. This should be a great space.
Amazing. Well, glad to have you here and excited to talk about what we've got coming up with Decentraland very soon. I know we'll jump into that. Let's jump over to Avalon and Danu Games. Nice to have you here.
Hey everyone, this is Marius, CEO and founder of Dane Games that creates Avalon, first in a word MMORPG that is multi-chain, and excited to be here with everyone, and I hope we're going to have a fun chatting.
All right, well, thank you so much. We will jump in, and feel free, to give us a little bit of additional insight. We've got a little bit of time for things. And one thing that I want to remember that I always forget to mention is that feel free to post anything to the top of the spaces. I'm a big believer in pictures and videos. So if you got a cool play demo or gameplay type of video or a trailer, or depending on where you're at, please do post anything graphical up there so that we can see. Graphical is probably the wrong word, but illustrative with graphics, that people can see what you are building. Sorry, there was a weird soundboard interaction there. Having a little bit of technical difficulties on my end personally, so we'll keep powering through. I am finishing getting the guests on stage. All right, now I think we have everybody. That is good. We'll go over to Owned. Can you guys hear me?
Hello. Apologies. You know how it is sometimes. Twitter be rugging.
I do know how it is. Well, you're here. You're being heard loud and clear. So go ahead. Tell us about Owned.
Yeah, no worries. So Owned is a marketing creator agency type deal. Kind of got a finger in a couple of pies across the Web3 space, but mostly dealing with creators and projects and their campaigns and things like that. And yeah, super excited to be talking to all of you guys.
Amazing. Well, excited to have you here as well. And then let's jump over to, I'm going to butcher it, Rafalos with the Drip Team. How you doing?
I'm good. It's Rafellos.
I knew I was going to mess it up, man.
It's okay.
I
That's
saw
times
it.
we
I'm
make
like,
up
I don't
names.
remember. I'll take a shot. Rafalos, good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here on behalf of Drip. We are the community engagement layer. We found that community is the most important part that Web3 has solved, and the rest of the world needs it. So I'm excited to be here and talk about it and how it interacts with gaming and every aspect of our life, and how we can implement engagement and loyalty along the way.
Amazing. Well, I know that I still owe you a response in these crazy times, but we are excited about what Drip is building. I had the opportunity to learn more about Drip over at Consensus when the Satoshiverse team was in Austin, and real cool stuff that you guys are building, and really needed, like you said. I mean, community is the driving force between all of us in our little sandbox where we get to build awesome stuff. So really excited to have you on as well. This is going to be a stacked panel. Really good assortment of guests doing very different things. So let's go over to Spencer, who will be on the Hideout account and hosting, and has a little bit more to tell us, and then we'll get us into the questions.
What's going on, everyone? Yes, my name is Spencer Vogel. I'm the business development manager with Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment. So I am speaking on the Hideout account today. So we're actually trying to build up the Hideout brand, kind of as a separate thing from Satoshiverse. Would really appreciate if you guys are joining us for the first time, giving the Hideout account a follow, just so we can continue to build it out and get the word out about these cool spaces that we've been able to put on for, 79 times now, over the last couple of years. So would really appreciate that. Next thing I want to cover before getting into the format is that we do a giveaway on every single one of our spaces here. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to pin a post right now to the top of the space. All right, so I just pinned a post. It says, "We're live." So that post there, all you have to do to join our giveaway, we're going to be giving away 5 Satoshi's crystals, which is our in-game resource, which is basically the main resource you need right now to be able to level up your items and your characters in the game. In order to win that, all you have to do is retweet that post that I just pinned to the top that says "We're live," and then just stick around until the end of the space. So now moving into the format, we're going to start out with a question for the group. Basically, I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into the conversation from there. Then we'll move into some individual questions for each of you guys. And then if we have time at the end, we'll move into some group questions again. Awesome. So without further ado, the first question. And why don't, Rafellos, why don't you start us off on this one? So how do you think the metaverse and Web3 gaming in general can positively impact society?
That is a great question. I think that one of the main things that Web3 gaming is really going to bring is this concept of ownership, which at a base level is something that needs to be instilled in people from a young age and is actually really valuable. Not just in the concept of what they can bring from place to place and how the metaverse is going to enable people to be able to interact across the world in even better ways than they can now, but because I feel like people aren't actually taught in school what it truly means to have something, what it means to have your identity, what it means to be who you are and have control of your digital self. They currently are just giving it away to every corporation that exists. So once we can teach them how they can have ownership and have control, I think it's going to lead to a place where people have much more value and self-worth. So it, it can actually have pretty grand effects.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, my original reason for getting in this space was just, being a lawyer in the IP and the entertainment space and seeing there's just this stark difference between the rights that we had in our physical property and our goods and collectibles and things that we own physically and what existed in the digital space. And so, when I was a young lawyer, I was kind of exploring the role of IP law within video games and licensing. And it kind of became fairly obvious that there was this structure for gaming and digital collectibles and really the digital world that was completely at odds with some of the things that we hold most dear to us when it comes to our physical collectibles, right? The physical collectibles, physical assets, anything that we enjoy physically, the ability to really say that it's yours, the ability to not have it be taken away from you by a corporation, the ability to use it where you want to, and the infrastructure that allows for that, not just from a, practical standpoint, but from a legal standpoint, the decades of laws giving you rights to your physical property simply do not exist in the digital realm. We have this entire realm of, intellectual property law that concerns digital rights, but it's limited to your ability to have intellectual property and sublicense intellectual property. And what I always felt kind of the potential about Web3 in general was this tangibilization of digital assets. And so, we talk about this a lot on the spaces. So for the recurring guests, sorry, I always go into this. We always have a question that puts me down this path. But I think, I totally agree that there is a fundamental shift in how we think about digital assets that becomes possible when we talk about having an asset that is separatable, right? Something that isn't the IP, something that is separate from the IP itself. And when we start to think about what that means, it opens up an entire new realm of rights that you can own over a digital asset without rights to the IP itself. And that's very important because it can align the digital space with the physical space and allow us to adopt all those decades of laws that apply to physical goods in the digital goods space. And, for a long time, I think people were content with simply using or displaying a license to, subject to certain terms, quote unquote, own something within an ecosystem. And I think that as digital things become more important to us with advances in hardware, with AR technology overlaying the digital world into the physical world, we're going to see people want the types of rights that they have with physical goods to apply to their digital goods. And NFTs and Web3 offer a vehicle to do that. Now, I think it's important to say offer a vehicle, because I don't think that Web3 inherently provides additional rights or significant additional rights, especially in Web3 gaming, where there is this kind of dependency on a centralized studio pushing forward games and the utility within those games. I think there's a long way to go in actually creating that set of rights for this new class, right, of tangible or semi-tangible digital assets. But for the first time, we have something that could allow that path to happen, that could allow us to get to this eventual thing that we call the metaverse. And whether that's, if you're on your computer in VR, on your phone in AR, my kind of view of the metaverse is just this crazy digital world that we're all going to be immersed into in 5 or 10 years. This is going to be the underpinning of the digital economy. And I think that cannot be understated. I think that is going to be so significant. It'll be the evolution of e-commerce in the digital space. But I also think it's going to look a lot less glamorous than it has for the last 2 years. People aren't going to be talking about NFTs and PSPs and Web3 gaming. It's going to be tools that lead to boring stuff like regulations and back-end code and the things that developers will speak the language, but end users will just be like, oh yeah, no, that's my hat for my avatar. It's not a NFT of a hat for my avatar. It's just a hat for my avatar. And I think we'll get there. And I think soon, soon being in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to lose a lot of these terms, but we're going to see adoption at a more, large scale level, just because of the advancements in the technology that we've seen over the last couple of years.
And on top of that, the digital asset side is only going to be one aspect. The digital identity of the user is going to be the whole other piece that I think is going to be as important, if not even more important, because people have just been giving data that at a point up to now was fine. Corporation has your data, they use it for whatever. Now it's becoming corporation has your data, they're using it for AI training. And what are they doing with that? And we're losing more and more rights for that. So as we enable people to have control over that side and what data is released, what data corporations have, for how long, what we give them, what we get from it, it's going to give us more leverage in terms of the games we play, how we interact, and in the metaverse, who we are.
I totally agree. And we have one of the top, if not the top, decentralized metaverses here with us. So specifically as it applies to metaverses, how do you think that kind of the evolution of the metaverse is going to positively impact society, decentralized?
Hi, everyone. I think that it is on a really broad range. So I think one of the things that is most interesting from my perspective, so Decentraland, for anyone that doesn't know, is a virtual social world. And what I find most interesting is that social aspect of it. And there's a lot of positive influence that comes from that. We've seen with many members of our community that maybe there are reasons they can't be social in real life. So it's geographical. It's time-based. Maybe they're like me, I'm a mom and I can't go out at night all the time because I have little kids, but I can still join a party in Decentraland and be a part of a community at different times. So I think that ability to open up to a global audience, the opportunity to connect really easy in a low barrier way where you can just jump online and have like real human connections with people in a way that feels social and fun and not behind only a chat screen, but really can show emotion with like emotes and movements and can show your digital identity with the way you build your avatar or the way you show up in the metaverse, or in virtual worlds specifically. So what I'm excited about is just that a way for more people to connect in something that feels more natural to us, that really shows who you are and you're showing up and you're building community in a way that can be impactful with one another, especially for those that may not be able to do so in real life for whatever reason it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, at least my introduction to being in world in Decentraland, I think a lot of people's introduction, because of the circumstances of the world at the time that Decentraland launched, was COVID, right? And a literal reason why none of us could go out and see each other. And, I remember getting in world and running around and, the treasure hunts were cool, and the collecting wearables and customizing buildings, all the gamified aspects were cool. But at its core, I enjoyed going in there, and at the time, and probably still now, you had some of the brightest minds in Web3 all congregating in these little conference rooms to listen to speakers in your kind of traditional conference setting. And we were networking with some of the eventual heads of every major metaverse and gaming project that emerged in the 2 years after. I could trace almost all of my contacts, 1 or 2 degrees of separation back to those initial days in Decentraland. And that's real. That is when we start to talk about building niche communities and starting to build, brands and having people who are like-minded but diverse and have, input on important topics and can kind of gather in a place. I think these metaverses like Decentraland, the social aspect really shines through. And it's interesting, right? Because we don't really know. I think, it's one of I was watching someone present the other day, and we were talking about, or they were talking about this being the first time in human history where we truly don't know what the world is going to look like in 20 years. That for the entire existence of mankind, right, we've had periods where you could with a certain degree of certainty, know that, in the Middle Ages, people were still going to be, herding sheep in 20 years, and they were still going to be farming, and they were still going to probably be wars. We are at a point in human progress and history where I think, when we're thinking about what is the next generation going to experience, I think we could all have our best guess, but I don't think any of us truly know what the world is going to look like. And I think what we're doing now is we're playing with concepts. And, I think Decentraland was actually a good example of that, with DAO infrastructure and how do you govern a decentralized metaverse. A lot of the things that were challenging, I think, at early times and caused quite a bit of, struggle in the early ages of the project, but gave us the learnings that I think will eventually help us form the foundation for this digital world that we all hope is going to be a positive impact on society, right? And I think in order for that to happen, we need to continue to experiment. We need to fail early and fail often, right? So that we can succeed in building something that it is positive for that 20-year future, because it's crazy how different the world is going to be in that time. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you say 20, I say like 10. I mean, I think looking at what's happening and how fast things are progressing, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like, when my kids are teenagers and they're toddlers now. My daughter moves around to Decentraland and she's 6 better than I do sometimes. So it's really interesting to see what the digital native, age groups that are coming up now, what they're going to do. But I think the other thing, we're really thinking about at Decentraland, and I know everyone on this space is as well, is just, if we're recreating what's possible, let's not recreate with the limits of today and the problems of today. And so that's what is most exciting about what we're all working on, is just what barriers can we break down? What habits can we not bring into this new space? What biases can we leave behind, and really just allow a different type of future that isn't as hierarchical, that isn't as centralized, that isn't as big brand controlled. What would that look like, and how would that work? And I think that's where we're going to find some real gems in what's possible for what's coming up in the future.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear if anyone else has any thoughts on this who hasn't spoken yet, and then Spencer can take us into the individual question. Go ahead, Owen.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going far back to kind of like the beginning of the conversation, but I remember somebody said like putting people that are in like high school and kids, in a better position to onboard them into ownership, right? And I think it goes even a little bit deeper than that, in terms of Like, for example, we all know that, at school, they never taught you about taxes, right? Or setting up bank accounts, or how to, put money into your 401k or your pension, or things like that. And one of the good things that I can really appreciate about kind of the whole decentralized ecosystem, not only from a technical point of view, but also from an informational point of view. It allows anyone really to learn about things in as simple way as possible, but there's no kind of barrier to entry onto really getting this sense of true ownership with your assets, and you yourself teaching, yourself on what the future of whether it's crypto or NFTs or whatnot, a future of that. You don't have to go to school, right? I don't need to go and get a Web3 degree to understand how to, go and jump into to Bitcoin and NFTs and things like that. And that's the thing that I can really appreciate. It's not only the technological aspects of decentralization, but it's also the informational aspects.
Absolutely. Although I do hope that someday we will not only have classes on how to open a bank account and all these practical things that we need in our lives, but that Web3 will be taught in, game design school, in law school, and engineering school. I think that's where this is all going to go one day. And I think you're right. As a user, this is a technology that makes sense, right? The consumer pitch for this, the own your stuff angle, right? And I think like another speaker was saying that the own your identity angle is even more important, and it'll be interesting to see how Web3 drives innovation in that space, because own your data, own your identity on the digital side, it's something that I think 99% of people don't really think about, but it's such an important thing. And it's, something that we're all going to be faced with as we move forward, and as more data becomes available and honestly easier to process. I think that is the thing that's really going to move the needle, is that there's just so much data, but the ability to process it large scale is becoming better and better. And so, with advancements in quantum computing and just the ability to process crazy amounts of data and do things with it, that data becomes so much more significant and actionable, right? And so I think there's going to be negatives and drawbacks to that, and people are going to start caring a bit more, and we need to have answers, when they do, and that's going to drive innovation. So I'm excited for it, but it's also, a little scary.
Avalon, do you have anything else to add to the question before we move on to individual questions here?
I was just paying attention to you guys and how much you read, and ladies, by the way. I'm just happy to see that Decentraland is still around. It's one of the OG projects of the scene. It's a battle for everybody, for the users. So I'm happy to see the old project still around and kicking in, and I see you guys do something big on the 26th. So congratulations, and just in general cheering for everybody. My opinion is the same. Our system is, we're not trying to develop something brand new here, because that may not work. We giving players value for the time, which worked out over the last 20 years in the gaming industry, in Diablo Marketplace that was shut down, where players were able to create their value by creating and finding items in the game and selling them to other players. And that is, I think, the way of how the play to earn should work, my opinion. And that goes into, yes, your ownership, your identity, and what you can put into your character, who you are, and now you take ownership of that and you can sell it or keep it forever. So we stick to the same basics that you guys were talking about. The only thing we walk away is completely, but in general, from tokenization of project, that then the projects are judged by how the token is doing. Not how good the project is or the game is, but is the token up and down. The majority owners of the tokens never even play the game. So we try to stay away from it and just let people spend time in a game, create their character, make it stronger, create a bunch of different armors to it, and put this package all together, save the metadata, and then give it or sell it to somebody brand new in the game. As a community in MMO and being in MMO space, we can kind of align with what Decentraland is doing because they have their dance parties with carrots and other things going on there, and we have the fire pits when people meet up and cook different meats and bring their dragons and show off their new pets, and they stay together and they talk live. Sometimes I log into the game and I see 12 players sitting across the fireplace and just talking about U.S. economics or what's going on in Europe. Nothing really to do with the game, and I'm going even rating. So the community aspect worked out for us pretty well, and players right now understand that it's not the cost of the pass that they pay, or it's not where the token is going to be, but what can they find in a game, and who is their friend that could pick up the item from them, and that's kind of the Web3 for us. I'm not gonna run too much, but I just want to say that we are the only one at this stage game accepted by Microsoft into all the stores that is NFT optional and it's an MMO. There's an only shooter there so far. So that's going to be how we will introduce the whole ownership perspective from the Web3 into tons of people across the globe, because every time you turn on the PC, there's going to be Avalon and a section of MMOs in your Game Pass. And then they will have an option to come and visit Web3 or play the Web2 game. And I think that's the only way for all the games that are here or anybody new building to do the Web 2.5. Because forget bringing players from Web3 and growing in this little space here. You have to go out there and show that you exist. And the only way to do it is convince these companies, the large ones, that we're not the scam projects. We're trying to do something good here, and how we differentiate from another. And recommendation for everyone that's listening here, if you're building something, try from Epic Games. They're the most friendly for Web3 space. So if you're ever pushing something out to be visible for Web2 players, try Epic always. Well, thank you guys for giving me the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the voice distorter, although it is a little hard to understand. I think I got about 60% of that, and I'm pretty English proficient, so I know that our non-English proficient guests may have a little time, a bit of a tough time. So I don't know if you can tone down the distortion a little bit, if you want to use the distorter. But anyways, as a Satoshi themed project and anonymity being a big part of our lore, I love the I love the effect. I've always just feared that people wouldn't be
I
able to
didn't know I
understand
had
it.
something on.
Oh, okay, no worries. Yeah, you had like an anonymous voice distorter going, and everybody's like,
Yes, it sounded like we were like on a Dateline episode where
That's
your
so
face was
cool.
completely silhouetted.
so we got.
Oh my God, I love that you didn't even know that.
That's
That's
funny.
I did not
hilarious.
know that. It was turned on the bottom somewhere in the screen. I was scrolling before. Oh my
That's
gosh.
so
Okay.
funny.
Well, I hope you guys
Well,
had fun.
we didn't. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were making a lot of good points, and it was just I thought it was intentional. But yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, it's Epic Games is a great platform to be releasing. I think that we're gonna see so much. I'm excited. I mean, we're building a high fidelity game, and I really want to see consoles become a bit more open to Web3, and I think that's going to take a little bit of a more difficult jump, right? For the terms of service to be updated to a point where you can feel comfortable really driving Web3 gaming forward on, for example, Xbox or PlayStation, or even some of these, mobile consoles. But I think that, generally speaking, high fidelity gaming is going to be such a big part of the metaverse and gamified experiences and VR, and AR. And so we're excited to see some of these bigger players. We're built on Unreal Engine and working on Epic products. So it's definitely, I can definitely echo those statements. I think it's a great company.
Nick, I think we might need to work that force emulator thing into one of our intros. I think that'd be a fun way to start the
Yeah, it would
spaces.
be. It would be. Except I don't know if people will understand me either, so we'll see. We'll have to tweak it a little bit.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to move on to individual questions here, and the first one is going to be for Rafellos. So how can Web3 technology better enable community building and engagement in this digital age?
Thank you. That is right up our alley. So, a Drip as a community building tool and as a loyalty and rewards and engagement, we found that Web3 really speaks to the core and has several advantages over the traditional way of doing things. One, we are going to be launching something called Drip ID, which enables you to sort of tie together your digital identities. And by doing this, you're able to aggregate rewards. What Web3 enables here is the ability to see what you own if you choose to grant that access. And going back to our prior conversation, that is a key part, is you can tell the communities what you want to, and you can, the communities can reward you for sharing. And that goes beyond just communities into all of brands. And a quick note on that. Web3 has a concept of community. Web2 has audiences. The shift between an audience to a community is a massive one that enables a two-way conversation that is more of an equity, where the users feel like they have equity in the brand, in terms of say, in terms of being able to potentially get something for it, in terms of rewards for their participation. And so in those places, it's just a massive shift. And what we've seen though for a Drip is that building a community strengthens the way people interact with brands. It strengthens their bonds between each other. It strengthens their brand affinity. So everyone wins from it. And on the reward side, you're able to reward people for their engagement through traditional methods such as questing, through newer methods such as NFT ownership. We have, for example, the ability to earn daily for ownership of NFTs. It's not quite staking because it's just owning it and it's being there. So, and then you can claim that, or you can choose to, if you choose to sell, you can sell with your points on top of the NFTs. So enabling new methods of both the ownership, of the gaining from the ownership, and new ways to reward people. Traditional rewards were always a purchase reward. Maybe you get a cup of coffee for buying some coffee at Starbucks. But now the communities are able to take control and say, okay, you show up to spaces, great. You have this NFT, you partner with that NFT, well, we can do multiplier because you have that one as well. You played this game and we're able to see that you played this Web3 game, you can have something. You can buy skins. So you're able to show off your community in other places and in other games. And that's a place where community building and gaming really intersect, is the ability to allow communities to sort of raid games so that they can show their strength in their community and play against another community, and show off against each other in these multiplayer games and spaces that are just coming up ad hoc. So there's a lot of cool ways where community and Web3 intersect, and this is just touching on the start of it. I don't want to take up a ton of time on it, but it's amazing what we're seeing, and the concept of you share what you want to share and you can be rewarded for sharing that is something that is just at the tip of what we've released and what is going to be the state of the future. And the ability that as you're doing it, your digital identity that you choose to share with the world will enable you to have better access in entertainment. It will enable you to get rewarded for just telling this brand, hey, I also bought from these other brands and here's my essentially digital trail of doing this. And the authenticity to say that you were there. We have something coming out later this year called Drip Drop, which is the ability through ultra high frequency sound to drop NFTs. And that is just going to be insane. So you show up at a concert and they can interlace NFTs throughout it. And maybe if you collect 5 of those through the concert to show that you were there for, all of it or half of it or whatever, you can get rewarded. So we're able to then take it that side, and maybe you have several of these. Okay, that means that you're actually a fan and showed up to these concerts. Now you have first right to the next time that artist goes and is having your concert. Imagine a Taylor Swift concert where we legitimately are able to show that fans that showed up are the ones that are allowed to buy, and scalpers can't get it first. It's going to be a whole new way that the community is able to say, I was there, I cared, and I engaged, and we can reward them for it in ways that were never possible before, but the blockchain enables.
I go to a lot of concerts. I'm very excited about Drip Drop, and also I love the name.
Thank you. Yeah, Drip Drop is going to be, and I don't want to sound too grand on it. It's going to be revolutionary. It is going to change the way people interact. You could Drip Drop in games. If people are playing in any of these games, and let's say you have a streamer doing it, you can Drip Drop to all of your audience who's watching. And they can actually show that they were there, and they can guess the thing. Maybe they can get an exclusive item in a game for showing up to this space that was only available to claim live. Not even if you were listening to it later. We can make it so you just do it live. It's going to change the way communities interact and reward each other.
It's awesome. Definitely would help the way that we run giveaways in our spaces for sure. But just in the interest of time, I'm going to move us along. So next question is for Owned. So why do you think content creators and influencers are important for the growth of the Web3 gaming space?
I mean, it's just got to look back at your traditional gaming content creators as well, really, I don't like to say it. There's a nicer way for me to say this, but I'm going to say it as my brain is telling me to say it as. But in essence, people are sheep, man. Like, in the nicest way possible. Everyone is kind of no matter what you do, you always follow the crowd. You're never going to go and play a game that's got 3 or 4 people playing. Some of the biggest hits in the past 5 years, looking at the likes of Among Us, right? It was just stumbled upon by one creator who then got it larger and larger and larger. And while sometimes that can be really good, sometimes it can also be bad. You could have an amazing game, but if you don't have the marketing budget behind it to go and pay top creators, then there's a chance your game's not gonna get out there. But for Web3 specifically, I think it's even more important than traditional gaming. There are so many potential games that are going to come out. There are so many games that are already out that you're going to be overwhelmed as a consumer on where you want to put your time. Even if you're not buying into the ecosystem, you are still a consumer because you are using your time on these games. And sometimes the best ways to find out whether or not you want to play a game or whether or not this is going to be the right fit for you is, what do? You help YouTube, you help even Google, and you go, if you're interested in play to earn games, top play to earn games, or if you've seen a specific game and you don't want to go through the whole kind of hassle, especially within Web3 with different chains and different login flows and everything that goes into that. Like I had to set up everything for Magic today for Beacon, that game that came out. It takes time, and everyone values their time. So if there's a way for you to not have to go through that entire process to inevitably find out that it's not something you're interested in, then creators are your best way to go. But yes, I go back to the kind of idea that it's a shame that there are definitely games out there within Web 2 and Web 3 that just don't have the marketing budget to kind of get them out there when they could be some of the best games.
Totally agree. Yeah, influencers and content creators are hugely important for all industries, really, for just, getting people interested in products. So, thanks for your answer. And next question is to Kim at Decentraland. So, in what ways do you expect gaming and the metaverse to converge in the future? And I know we got a little bit into that before. And also, how do you think events like Decentraland's virtual game expo will help showcase that convergence?
Yeah, such an exciting question. So for anyone that's not familiar, just some context on the Game Expo, which actually starts in less than 24 hours. So June 26th through 29th is the Decentraland Game Expo. It's a free event open to all. It is happening on Decentraland, but basically we really believe in the, rising tide lifts all ships. And we went to GDC this year, and it was just so exciting to see all of the games in one place. You could kind of walk around, get a feel for what everyone was doing, see the variety, learn from one another. And one of the ideas was like, okay, could we make that in a digital way for everyone that wasn't able to be here? And so we started out, this is our first time doing it, so definitely a test and learn type of experience, but really wanted to explore the future of Web3 gaming at a virtual fairground. So the theme is fair. So it'll be very neon arcade type vibe where we have games featured in Decentraland. So there's 30 neon lit attractions. So there's like 25 expo booths, which are other Web3 games that are not in Decentraland, but just featured kind of expo style with a booth where you can learn more about these amazing games and the innovations they're bringing forth. We will have actual gameplay for Decentraland games. There was a Game Expo Game Jam where we have 4 winners. Those games are featured in the plaza so everyone can come in and play them together. You'll get a ticket for playing. Those tickets can then be redeemed for free wearables and emotes. So different prizes throughout the event. And just a lot of fun. So really to come out, if you're a gamer, game dev, Web3 first timer, it's really a place to come and see what's possible in Web3 gaming in Decentraland, but then also an opportunity to learn from so many other industry experts in this space. So we will be linking out to a lot of different games. We have the Legions 2029 game. We have Avagachi, Planet Mojo, Klebe Clash, Moto Deck, like just a huge variety of games. And then Loot Rush and Sandstorm. So some tools that gaming uses. And then some new custom games from the Foundation team. We have Ratscape, which we introduced a few months ago. We have a new one called Dialogic. So a big variety to come. And the Blockchain Game Alliance is participating as well and bringing some of their partners. So it's just a great opportunity to really bring everyone to kind of together to one place to say, like, let's all just focus on Web3 gaming and gameplay for a few days. So throughout the event, you can explore the fairgrounds, but you can also join live discussions and learn from industry experts. So there will be 10 live chats that you could be a part of. So we'll go through tours of the games in Decentraland. We will have representatives from all these games participate in live panels that'll be streamed in Decentraland, but also here on X and LinkedIn and YouTube. So just really trying to have a big reach for anyone that may be, Web 2 learning about Web 3, doesn't know how to get into Decentraland. We have some tutorial content all coming out today for those people as well, but just so that they can participate and be a part of this event. I think the more people that learn about Web3 gaming as a whole, the better for all of us. And I know we've all kind of said that and feel that mentality. So we're really excited. There's a lot of really great innovations happening in this space. Some of these games that have never participated in Decentraland are making Decentraland wearables that mimic some of their gameplay or the game characters. So it'll be a ton of fun, lots of free wearables and emotes for everyone that participates, because, what's a Decentraland event without some free giveaways? And then an opening and a closing party, because also that social part of gaming is just such a big experience in Decentraland. So really excited to have that. If you're okay, I can pin to the top the ultimate guide where it kind of breaks down everything that's happening during the 4 days.
Absolutely. Please do pin it. I am excited. We're going to have our Legions booth, and then I know I'm going to be on a panel talking about leveraging
Yes.
digital asset ownership, which is my favorite subject in the space, as you might tell, because it comes up in every one of our spaces. So very excited to talk with an awesome panel over there about that. And yes, please do pin to the spaces. For those of you who don't know, real quick, and I know we're running out of time, we were actually one of the first collections to the first collection to release linked wearables in Decentraland. So for anybody in our community who has not had a chance to go into Decentraland, if you are a Legionnaire owner, you will have a Legionnaire linked wearable in Decentraland in your linked wearable section of your inventory as soon as you jump in. And they're super cool looking. They're like the Satoshi suit with depending on which Legionnaire you have a different print on that Satoshi armor. So definitely check it out if you haven't been in there. I want to see as many Legionnaires running around as possible during Game Jam.
Yeah, thank you. And we're excited to have everyone here. So again, free for all to join. If you haven't been into Decentraland, we will be posting a tutorial of how to join, but we have a client you can download, or we recommend using the Opera GX browser if you want to do play on web as well. So either one, we're happy to see everyone, and it kicks off tomorrow at 2 p.m. UTC.
Awesome. Well, we are super excited to join you guys. Everyone, make sure you go and check that out. And now we have our last question here for our favorite anonymous Dateline witness. So, Marius, your question for you is, Avalon advertises itself as a truly cross-chain game with integrations to Polygon, Ethereum, Wax, BSC, and IMX. So why do you think it's important for Web3 games to employ a cross-chain infrastructure?
All right, I hope now there is no voice distortion.
You sound great.
I didn't know, guys, that was the case. I will pay attention next time to what I'm pressing on the little phone. First of all, Decentraland, I didn't know you guys do that event. I'll definitely want to have a booth there next time in the MMO section. I was looking at the map. There is a huge event like this called NFTopia. You guys can research that. Last time had over 200 games. It's been started by Splinterlands back in the day, probably 4 or 5 years ago. So NFTopia, it's just like that. You can host your games on a big walls, there on the screens, and there's tons of booths. There's also blockchain attorneys and different companies coming to that one. It's a virtual little thing run by 5 people, but they do have quite a bit of outreach. So last time we did booths with them at the big stages, it was, I would say, between 100 to 200 projects that had different stages there, and tons of giveaways and stuff like that. So I recommend everybody to look into NFTopia. I'm trying to bring as many people as we can. Currently, I think this is the largest events that they organize, maybe 3 times a year there. So anyway, going back to the question, that was why multi-chain? I had this crazy idea back in the day that I wanted to connect the Web3 gamers under one umbrella without dividing them into fans of Wax or fans of Polygon or fans of Binance and be limited to these chains. I used to believe that the chains will encourage that and support projects that want to unite blockchain gamers. The reality is a little different. Chains tend to care about their IPs. And I'm going to put some negative tone here for a second because everybody was very positive. But it's time to do some little reality checks here. Some of the chains that I cannot name, all they care about is adding 250 games into the chain. Zero support after, tons of complaints from a bunch of projects. People spend tons of money on adding chain into the project to be plugged into this project community. The only thing they received is retweets and a couple comments. Nothing ever goes anywhere. And that's been with a lot of different chains that we spoke to or deal with. We were trying to don't limit Avalon to, let's say, Wax community because of the great marketplace. The chain is unknown, doesn't have the best vibe, and we were just expanding. Another one. I will put 50 chains if I can. because I have a great system on the back end and a really good team of coders. But at some point we decided to stop and decided to just grow our own IP. And at this stage, I think we did something that people have not done. There's a couple games that have two chains maybe that I've seen, but I haven't seen nobody that you can come from 5 different chains right now, play together in one mob, in one raid, and when you kill the boss and the treasure chest opens, the system checks from which blockchain you came with, and it will send you a reward to that wallet in that chain. And that is something that people have not done because it was overcomplicated. It's the same when it came to claiming your homes. We also didn't want to concentrate on one chain. So, okay, Matic is cheap. We'll let you guys do quick transactions. It's not expensive, but you are stuck into Polygon-based marketplaces. And where are the good Polygon-based marketplaces? They don't exist. Most of them are not readable, aside of maybe OpenSea. That's very limited. Everything else, you can barely find NFTs if they're divided to sections. I mean, you guys know how that is. If you have multiple different sections of NFTs and you're using third-party marketplace, players could not find what they were looking for. Everybody got just distracted and they were moving into better marketplace, which I think is Atomic Hub by Spillworks that now is multi-chain. I recommend everybody to check in Atomic Hub. I think the best interface that we have currently in the Web3 space when it comes to marketplaces. The easiest to find, became multi-chain right now. And that's where our community, after 2 years, consolidated. They decided to exchange NFTs from IMX and Polygon into Wax due to mostly ease of use of the wallets and the marketplace. Did the fees had a like any, I would say, influence on what we did? Yes, we stayed away from Ethereum, obviously, because slow and expensive. The IMX original chain also slow and expensive. We're going to stay away from this. We were looking at the cheap ones so the people don't spend any money. And currently we have pretty much no fees in the game. We didn't want to, I could create custom chain for us, but your outreach is very minimum to the gaming communities. So it was a challenge, I have to say. We were the trailblazer. I think maybe 2-3 other games did multi-chain. Did it work out at the end? Yes, I guess we reached out to all these communities that are concentrated around Binance, Ethereum, Polygon, IMX, so they know we exist and met some great people, but they still merge into the most active marketplace. So whichever chain you use doesn't really matter. What matters is where a community concentrates on. And if you're going to narrow yourself to one chain, your outreach, I think, to players is quite small. Your visibility is small. And I've been talking to a lot of big games that have been a long time here with us in the space, and user acquisition has been the most difficult part for everyone to get more players, new players, fresh crowds. We can talk how great we are, all that's okay, we're going to survive another 2-3 years. Well, Avalon is an MMO. MMOs last 10, 15 years, and if they're really good, 30 years, right? And we need to look long term what we're building. Maybe this is the first one that we made. The second one is going to be better. The third one is going to be even better. Technology is changing, but user acquisition is number one. Nobody wants to be in an empty game if it's an MMO. Nobody wants to be in an empty, beautiful world if there's no players running around you. So how are you going to do that, guys? Like, are you going to constantly spend money on Twitters, constantly spend money on little groups of YouTubers that are out there in the Web3 space when the general space is small? And I'm judging that by PC-based Web3 games only, that and the size of their communities, they're not big at all. They're laughable, comparable to a Web2 space. And that is my opinion only for the PC-based, not for the mobile Web3 that we have, because these are quite popular because everybody has them on their phones. But where we are, it's a PC and console-based game, and we cannot base our future on the Web3 community. It's just too little. And these are like fans and trailblazers and champions of knowing what Bitcoin is, where people heard about Bitcoin on. When you explain to a person NFT, the first thing they say in the Web2 space, because I had a lot of spaces in the Web2 now, why would you need that? That's way overcomplicated. oh man, I'm just going to get something for $9. So these are the replies we're getting in the Twitter spaces when we talk to the Web2 gamers. And we try to explain to them, hold on, now we have platforms like Microsoft Xbox, which allows NFT optional projects, where if you want to own this character, then you buy it on this external marketplace. But if you want to play the game and have access to limited amount of characters, still fun, and don't have any ownership, you can play your Web2. And I think that's the future of the space, to give people option. Would you like to try NFT? Would you like to own something and then had an option to take it out in the market? Or would you like to be a standard gamer and still mix with that community? I think it's easier to bring Web3 players into Web2 worlds than everybody's talking around here to bring in Web2 to Web3. Good luck. It is on a large scale is not possible. The largest MMOs that I see in the Web3 space, they have 16,000 people and maybe 1,500 active players. That is like, I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we have lives, right? So we need to have volume. And for us, volume is be on the large marketplace and then explain to people why they're playing the Web2 game, that there is a version of it, of a Web3. And my goal is to, and currently we achieved quite a bit of success with that. All our mythical characters sold out. Our legendary characters are like 80% sold out. Our homes are 95% sold out. Our businesses are 100% sold out in the game. And then these Web2 gamers will see the fancier version of these living creatures in their own world. And they will ask the questions at the fire pits and chats and groups. Where did you get that from? Because this seemed to be more cooler. Hold on, you can actually sell it to me and I can use it. And that's the only way, like, in my opinion, how you can introduce it. Overcomplicating to people, telling them they have to subscribe for wallets, put their private keys somewhere, ain't happening with kids these days, that they can get everything for free on their phones and play. So just my opinion, we're happy we did multi-chain. We did that route. We still have 6 wallet connections. If you're going to log into our menu when you download Avalon, it's probably the most interesting menu you've ever will see. There's so many chains to choose from and so many marketplaces to pick up the items. But I think ultimately, my goal as a brand and as a company is to go to all the marketplaces. We're listed, we're submitted to Steam. We're not going to activate our Steam account until Avalon is about 8 months from the release. And the reason is the wish lists that if you wish something 6 months or further, you just forget about it. So you need to be within the 6 to 8 months from the release. But we are on all the largest marketplaces in the world that you will see, including Web2 and the Web3 space. We just got accepted to Nintendo Asia. A single player version of our game is coming for Nintendo Twitch. So there, we cannot introduce people to NFT space, but we can have a little frame that will take them to the Web3 version and show them that version. So this is, again, going on a console that you can get 250,000 copies sold within weeks, telling people that something like Web3 actually exists. And good luck doing it with any other projects. And I'm judging by sizes of the Twitters that we see in the space, sizes of active communities inside of Discord, because I've seen companies that we did promotions with, they had 400,000, and that's a big brand, 400,000 followers on Twitter, all paid actions inside of it, all paid actions inside of Discords, and that ended up being 20 people coming to our Discord. So we just don't look at the space anymore like that. I'm very cautious about who we do stuff with. If we want to promote ourselves as the blockchain, the future of gaming, because you have the ownership, your identity stays yours, it's not belonging to corporation. And I want to bring something, guys, about the corporations, because I can tell you what, I've seen Ubisoft spending, $14 million on free-to-play game that was really good and went down within 6 months because it was not selling anything in the game. It's easy to do something free, bring a bunch of people, then you have to pay money to upkeep them. So free-to-play, not my thing. Another thing is us going to Web2 and showcasing the product on, and this was a question for the consoles, because I've seen here the host was saying something about the consoles. where currently, according to my knowledge, there is not a single Web3 game on the console. There's games that are coming and they're getting there, but they're not published yet. It takes years to do that, right? Sony bought tons of patents for Web3. So you can expect NFTs on PlayStation, right? You can just research that one. So they're coming. Xbox only allows NFT optional because you cannot sell NFTs directly to their network. That's not playing well with them. So you can introduce that. However, according to them, we are the only one MMO that is NFT optional. We don't know if we're going to be the first one releasing on Xbox, but we probably most likely going to be the second blockchain game on Xbox. There's one shooter. Well, that's it, guys. I don't want to brag too much because I know I'm going over time, and thank you for giving me the stage here.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to unpack there. I think there were a lot of good points, some that I might disagree with in the long term. I think at the end of the day, we are going to see a lot of this technology get back-ended, and the good games and top games will be what cause the onboarding, not necessarily the interesting communities in Web3 or, the niche IPs. I think we are going to see AAA gaming studios put out big games, and I think that's where we're going to potentially see, massive influx of onboarding. I will say on the technological side, a lot of the things that you were describing that were very difficult to do, because we did a lot of the same things ourselves, and we built out the back end and never deployed it, are much, much easier to do now. Things like cross-chain, things like account abstraction for wallets, easier onboarding. There's a lot that can be done now that still needs a lot of work if we're going to go large scale. But at least I think one of the things that excites me is the amount of work that's been done on the infrastructure side and the amount of money that's gone into supporting companies developing infrastructure for Web3 gaming. But in the interest of time, I think that will be a topic for a later discussion, because I think there are some experts on that topic that we can bring in and have some really interesting discussion around where the tech is at now. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Really great panel. Thank you to all the speakers for taking time out of your busy schedule. Sorry that we went over a little bit. I think we have to announce the winner, Spencer. So why don't we announce the winner of our spaces now? And then in the interest of time, we will do a very quick wrap up and close up the spaces. So Spencer, could you give us the winner?
Absolutely. So the winner of our giveaway today for 5 Satoshi's crystals is Naptic, or @CryptoNaptic. Congratulations. In order to claim your prize, you just need to go to game.legions2029.com. That's game.legions2029.com. Create a free account, and then just send Satoshiverse a DM, and we'll be able to drop those crystals into your account. We'll just send us the account name. And Nick, I'll let you close this out.
Amazing, yes. And usually I do want to give the speakers about a minute each if you want to plug anything you have at the end of the space. On our end, I don't want to go too deep, but again, we pinned a tweet to the top of the spaces. Legions 2029 is in open community testing, so please come and check it out. Give us your feedback. You can download it via the instructions in the pinned tweet, so check that out. It's a great community, really fun. We do this every week, and we get to really be ahead of the curve on a lot of things. So really, really excited. If you're interested in Web3 gaming, come join us. Maybe we'll close out with our speakers. Feel free to jump in and just try to keep it to about a minute because we are over time.
All right. In the interest of time, I'll go. Check out Drip. We are the community and engagement rewards tool. Actually really spoke to a lot of what Aleph Alam was talking about, where the ability to reward your community and to galvanize a community, in our case, to be able to also incentivize other communities, is crucial to be able to get games off the ground. The ability to reward people for their play, the ability to reward people for actions taken, and give them the ownership over not only what they are and what they do, but be able to say thank you for being a part of our community and participating, being an active person. That's what we believe in. That's the future of Web3. Drip.re.
I'll go. Well, thank you all for having us. We are excited to continue building in the Web3 space. If you have any questions about Decentraland, feel free to DM us, and we hope to see you all at the Game Expo kicking off tomorrow. We left the link in the comments of this thread, so everyone can find it afterwards as well. But thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you soon.
All right, I'm going to jump in. Thank you for inviting us and having us in this. It was a pleasure to seeing everyone or hearing everyone. Sorry for the voice distortion system that was going on here earlier. If you guys click on my logo, then there is a link to Discord invite inside of our panel. Go there, jump in our Discord, say hi, request a free game pass from us. And if you become an active player within the first 7 days, we may drop you up to $500 worth of NFTs. So jump in and welcome to Avalon, and thank you again to see everyone. Free passes for everyone that's in this chat that will join our Discord.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you to everyone who joined. There's going to be a bit of a 30-second delay, so I'm going to say we are signing off now, and we will be ending the spaces. Thanks so much, everyone. Please remember to join us next week, same time, same place.